Hello and welcome to the first episode of Consciously Awesome Live here on Solivity TV. I'm the host, Sheila Applegate, and my passion is helping people to discover their true brilliance. And the purpose for me to host this show is to help inspire you to claim your most vibrant life. I believe that it is our natural ability to connect with the divine and allow that to move through us as we navigate our life here on earth. So each week I will be inviting one of my favorite people from around the world to join me in a conscious conversation about the various aspects of life that influence each of us, from parenting to intimacy and relationships and death and dying, career, health, joy, experiencing the emotions, grief, all of it. We're going to just run the gamut of everything that makes us human and discuss how we can infuse that with source energy and live life from a soul space. So these people that I will invite from around the world are people who have inspired me, authors whose books have touched me, and actors who have worked on projects that inspired me, coaches and spiritual teachers, and everyday people who just inspire me for whatever that reason, whatever their gift here on earth. So we're going to have an amazing journey together here in the Consciously Awesome Live show. But for the first episode, I think it's important for you to know a little bit about me and what my core beliefs and inspirations are that will be influencing these conversations and directing the flow of this show. So I began my career about 30 years ago as a traditional therapist, child and family therapist, play therapist, and then moving into individual therapy of adults. And at the same time, I was learning alternative holistic healing techniques and meditation. And I felt that I had more gifts that I wanted to share. So I incorporated those in with therapy and then moved out into my own practice where I integrated many of these gifts and eventually becoming a manifestation coach, integrating all of the gifts together and creating a program called Consciously Awesome, which is where we get the show title, that really helps to give a roadblock to people, no, the opposite of that. We are giving a road map to people to really integrate their divine essence and find more joy and passion in life and access their higher levels of consciousness throughout their daily life. So there's a couple beliefs and core beliefs and experiences that I want to share with you today, because I think they really will help you understand who I am and where I come from and why we're here, why you want to come back and listen to Consciously Awesome every week, which I trust that you will. So I want to take you back to 1984. And if you want to imagine with me, we are in a high school classroom in Jamesville DeWitt High School in central New York, Mr. Bennett's philosophy class. It's a dreary day. I can still remember looking out the window that day and seeing the gray, misty rain out the window as this moment happened in which I made a decision that would impact the rest of my life and actually lead me here to you today. So in that classroom, on that dreary day, Mr. Bennett had just posed a question for the class to discuss. And that question was, is there life after death? I remember sitting and looking around the classroom as the students began to debate this pretty passionately. Of course, coming from different backgrounds and having different opinions and sides to it, and then being challenged by Mr. Bennett to dive deeper into their beliefs. And I looked around the classroom and I could feel the fear and doubt and frustration rising up in my fellow students as they were starting to question what they had once just accepted willingly from their parents or priests or rabbis, ministers. And I felt this sense of angst as I watched their temples of unquestioned truth start to tremble. And I recognized that feeling because I had started to explore that just a semester before when I was learning evolution in biology class. And in today's world, it seems silly that I had made it to high school and hadn't really taken the time to integrate science and the creation story and the things that I had learned at church. But that was a different time. Science and spirituality were still quite polarized back then, and I really believe that they've come together and support each other now. But I had started that questioning. So as the debate got loud and vivacious, I was one of the students who was wiggling in my chair silently. My mind was spinning, though. It was whirling around and spinning as I sought out the answer to one of the most fundamental questions of our life. And then suddenly my mind went silent and I knew the answer. I raised my hand and this is what I said. I said that we will never know the answer to this question until we die. Truly know it until we die. And when we die, we will either be experiencing a form of an afterlife or we will cease to exist and we won't realize it. So it's not as important that we get the correct answer, or at least for me, it's not as important that I get the correct answer, but that I choose an answer that will support me in living my life. And I choose to support, or I choose to believe in life after death because it makes me feel better about life. And that's what I said as a teenager. And I made that decision at that moment. Did I question God and an afterlife later? Yes, I did throughout my life at times, but at the core of my being was that decision from that day, that dreary day, that dark gray day in high school philosophy class. And by making that choice, I was able to navigate life not stuck on deciding or seeking proof, but simply allowing the magic of life to unfold, embracing the wonder, the serendipity. And in doing that, I had my belief confirmed as science and spirituality started to move closer together, and science began to give evidence of something beyond this physical existence. And in the experiences that I allowed in, I also confirmed my belief. Because as I allowed the possibility and the magic of life to inspire me, I was able to open up to more and more possibilities, which eventually would lead me to supporting people around the world in finding the magic in life and connecting with the divine and connecting with loved ones who have crossed over into the spirit world, to source energy and to their higher levels of consciousness. So that one moment in high school, when I made a decision to believe in life after death and to allow the magic and possibility of that to lead me, inspired me on a journey that brought me here. Now, that decision would be fundamental a few years later, before I was speaking to the world, right? I was then in college, and I had gone to England through Syracuse University for a study abroad, a semester abroad. And on December 21st of 1988, 35 of my friends and classmates were in a plane that exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland. And when I returned to Syracuse, I was the only social work student to return from that semester abroad. I wasn't on that plane because I had chosen to stay for Christmas with my family that I had, my English family that I had done an exchange program with in high school. So when I returned from England as the only social work student returning, and one of few of the whole school of students, or, the group of students who had traveled to England for that semester, I was asked to speak at the memorial. And in doing that, I met the parents of one of my friends that had been on the plane, Lindsay, and they invited me to attend her memorial in Baltimore. So my sister and I went down to the memorial a few weeks later, and we stayed in their home, in Lindsay's home, with her parents. And the same day that we arrived, only a few hours earlier, her parents had received her items, some of her luggage, and her backpack that had been salvaged from the wreckage. This backpack, I can still picture this backpack today. I could describe to you exactly what it looks like, because Lindsay had it with her everywhere she went when we were in England. And it carried in it some of her most precious belongings, because it would have been her carry-on package or, bag in the plane. And so that afternoon, I spent with her family as they would remove an item from her backpack. And I would do my best to explain. I didn't know everything, obviously, but I would do my best to explain what that item might be and what the meaning of it was for her, probably anything that I remembered, or, just discussing some of the events. Because back at that time, there was no email, no WhatsApp, no FaceTime. So that semester that we were over there was a semester that we had only spoken to our family a few times. It was expensive to call long distance back then. And so we all probably talked to our family about once a week for 10 or 15 minutes, and we were grateful if we got a letter or two in the mail each week. Snail mail, right? So her family did not know much of anything about her last several months of their daughter's life or sister's life. And I was the conduit for that. And I spent the day sharing, and they spent the day sharing memories of her that I didn't know about. And it was quite beautiful and intense. And that night, my sister and I, were staying in what was then the guest room. I'm guessing it was not the guest room when Lindsay was younger. She was the youngest of many children, so that house was full at one point. But anyway, we were staying in the guest room, and it had 2 double beds, and I was sleeping in one, and my sister was in the other, next to each other. And before I fell asleep, in that state just before you fall asleep, I felt and saw and sensed my friend Lindsay sitting on the bed with me, next to me. And I wasn't actually frightened. When I think back of it, even in that moment, maybe I believe in good part because of that decision I made in high school in the philosophy class, I was able to just be comforted and communicate with her in my mind. And she said to me a few things, and then she asked me something that did frighten me. She asked me to tell her parents that she loves them and that she was okay and that the death didn't hurt. That's when I started getting scared. I remember laying in bed, and in fact, I think I might have even woken my sister up at that point, because back to that spinning mind that I talked about in high school, it was spinning because I didn't know what to do. It wasn't that I was experienced. I had just met these people. I knew they were a Catholic family. I didn't know their beliefs about this. And I didn't know if they'd think I was crazy. So the next morning, I still didn't know. We went through breakfast, and I was constantly in the back of my head thinking, do I say something? Don't I say something? And then it was time to get ready for the memorial. And Lindsay's mom took us upstairs to show us where we would be showering and getting ready. And she asked if she could show me Lindsay's room. And when I walked into Lindsay's room, you could feel her in there too. Her presence was just, her energy was still there. And it was set up, of course, just like she had left it before she left for the semester, because it was only weeks before that she had died. And her mom shared that she often went into the room because she felt Lindsay there. She could feel her, and she felt close to her there. And that was the moment I knew that it was right for me to share what had happened. And so I took a deep breath and I shared that with her. And her mom hugged me. And she told me that she believed in it and that it felt true to her. And I forgot something that she told me when she was on the bed. And it's important because it was also confirming. When she was on the bed, she showed me pieces of cloth, like different pieces of cloth that seemed important to her. but I didn't know what that meant. And so I told her mom that too. And that was one of the keys, because her mom then went and showed me that she was making a quilt out of pieces of Lindsay's clothing and things that had been important to her or represented her over her lifetime. So that confirmation, that, and then later, as more and more information came out about the wreckage and the bombing and how things had went down, it was confirmed also how the people on the plane would have died very quickly and would not have experienced the pain of the crash. So that was a moment of confirmation, and I was able to share that with a family and take that risk. Now, that didn't mean that I went right out and saw dead people all the time. My life did not change significantly on the outside at that point. But what changed was my desire to help people understand and help people trust in relationships, because when you know that love doesn't end, I think it's easier to love here on earth. So those two elements are foundations of what makes me me and what I'm bringing to Consciously Awesome as we have these conversations throughout the episodes that will be coming forward. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, I want to share with you how I got from that to doing bringing messages in and teaching meditation to people around the world. So see you in a minute.
Solivity Magazine and Beyond Words Publishing is pleased to announce its latest charitable partner, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. We ask you to join us in supporting this national treasure of memories and truth to stay alive for generations to come.
Creating this museum gives us a chance to make manifest the dreams of many generations. We call the lost dream back.
This is a milestone moment not only for the Smithsonian, but for the United States.
The goal of the museum is to make America better. Provide opportunities for us to be made better by the past, and for us to move towards a future where race will always matter. They will find that those ideals are only met through sacrifice and struggle and a belief in a better day.
This place is more than a building. It is a dream come true.
History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived.
And by knowing this other story, we better understand ourselves and each other. I, too, am American.
We ask you to join us in supporting this national treasure of memories and truth to stay alive for generations to come.
Welcome back. So, all right, we left off that I had just given my first message unexpectedly, had my interaction with Lindsay, my friend Lindsay, who had crossed a spirit, and it was a spontaneous event, right? It was not something that I sought out. It just happened to me. And I did go on to learn how to connect with spirit at will. And I did that through meditation, through guided meditation. So I do want to lead you through a guided meditation here today, because I believe that connecting with the divine and connecting with the non-physical and loved ones who have crossed over is our innate ability. And I think that we learn not to do that and to question it. And we learn that maybe only a few special people can do that. And I don't believe that that's true. I've worked with people for years helping people that don't believe that they can connect. And in fact, even just last week, I had 3 new clients because I was starting a new Consciously Awesome program. And each one of them in their first session told me they couldn't meditate. And by the end of our time together, they were seeing their loved ones and guides and connecting with them. So it's just a matter of a learned skill. And we all do it naturally. And I'm thinking right now, before we move on, that some of you, this may be out of your comfort wheel, and you might be wondering about that, because I run into that a lot with people. And I'm thinking about one person, Sharon, that I met at a community connections meeting. And when I told her what I did, her eyes kind of bugged out, and she's like, I don't know anything about that. She says, it's not that I don't believe, it's just I've never experienced anything like that. And I said to her, but yes, you have. And she kind of looked at me, and I said, when you think of your loved ones, whoever your loved ones are, when you think of them, there must be times, because everyone does this. There's time, maybe there's a symbol that you always think when you see a flower, that that's your mother or friend or grandmother who crossed over, a specific flower or bird. Or maybe you have a conversation with them in your head, or think of them on their birthday and feel them with you in your memories. And then she smiled and she's like, oh, well, every time my friend who died, when I feel like she's near me, I get a chill. And then I know that she's there. And so I smiled at her. I said, yeah, see, we're all doing this. And that is one of my passions. I want you to know. And we're not going to spend the whole time when we're together in different conversations on just this, but I just want you to know that there's so much brilliance inside of you, and so much that you can access that will support you in living, because that's what it's all about, is supporting you in having an even better life, and in seeing the wonder and loving more deeply. I divert. So let me bring us back on track here. And let's talk about meditation, because that is how I learned to connect with spirit at will and to access my higher levels of consciousness, which just basically means, those parts of me that my little earth self running around and ego don't necessarily connect with if it's not intentional. So I was not good at meditation when I started, and I wanted you to know that, because before I take you through a little meditation, you need to know that me, who has spent a lifetime teaching meditation and even developed a technique for meditation, conscious meditation is a technique that I developed that's unique, and it came from my years of teaching people meditation and connecting with spirit. But when I started to meditate, I could not. I was a terrible meditator. I remember in college, I really wanted to learn to meditate. And it wasn't that common back then, not like it is now. So there weren't apps and things available for me. But I was trying to silence my mind. And I would lay in bed and I would just be like silencing my mind. And then it would get louder and I'd scream, and in my head, I would scream, right? And I would hear everything. I remember getting so rageful at the person whose bedroom was above me, the other tenant in the building, because I was convinced that he had, just to bother me, created a bowling alley on his wooden floor above my head and began bowling or doing construction work every time I went to meditate. That's how loud the sounds got, because I couldn't relax. And the more I tried, the more tense I got. So I started out probably the worst. But just after I got back from, I came back to Syracuse after after getting my master's degree in social work. And in my first job, my supervisor mentioned a metaphysical Christian church that she was a part of, that she was learning. She had to go to a meditation class, and that sparked my attention. And so I went to those classes, and those were those were guided imagery meditations, guided meditations, working meditations. And I fell in love with it because my brain had something to do. It had a purpose. It was coming along with me. My mind wasn't just trying to shut everything out. It was a part of the experience, and my imagination was a part of the experience. So I didn't have to imagine that the person above me was trying to torture me with noise. Instead, I could imagine that I was on a journey in a beautiful garden, and I learned to connect very deeply. And that is the technique that I used to teach people along the way. And the more I did it, the more connected I got, and the more I could see, and the more experience of majestic wonder poured into my life. And that can happen with you too, if it hasn't already. So speaking of the more I can see, I do want to say one of the things there's a couple things that I'll touch base on, because there's a couple things that almost all new meditators say. One is I can't see things. I don't see things. And I say to you, if that's you, I want to say to you, that's not true, because we all see in some form or another, see, sense, or think, or imagine it. And how we know this is, if you've ever read a novel, first of all, if you read a novel, it's because it's coming alive in your mind, right? You can imagine it happening, and that's how you get drawn into it and experience it. That's seeing. It comes alive for you. And one of the ways you know that is if you ever go to a movie after you've read a novel and you think to yourself, she didn't look like that, or that's not how it happened. And you realize that you have an image of the characters in the novel, and they may not match exactly the actor on the screen. And that little nuance and conflict can confirm for you that you were seeing, right? Because seeing isn't with our physical eyes. Often people will close their eyes, but they'll still look through their physical eyes. And usually when people do that, they'll tell me, well, I only see color, if they see color or anything, or light. But what we're really doing is looking with that part that thinks and sees things. Memories. If you're thinking of a childhood memory, or of your child when they were little, then you have a picture in your head of that. That's how you get the feeling, the sensation of it, the experience of it, how you move back into that moment. When you're worrying, you're also seeing. Then you're thinking about the future and possibilities that haven't even happened, and you're visualizing them inside your mind. So when we say seeing, that is what it is. And everybody does it naturally. And we just need to apply that to the meditation and the communication, which is quite easy. The other thing that people will say to me is, how do I know it's not just my imagination? And my answer to you for that is that everything we do begins with imagination, not just in meditation, but in your physical world. We wouldn't have fire. We wouldn't have stoves or furnaces if somewhere back in the caveman days, someone didn't look up into the sky and say, oh, it would be amazing if I could get a little piece of that giant hot fiery ball. Well, they wouldn't know fire then, hot ball of light so that I could see at night or keep myself warm in the cold. And then, or the spark of light to get that fire, right, going, and then containing it and allowing it to heat you. That all comes from imagination. Every innovation that we have, everything around you in the room came from someone's imagination. Science comes first from someone's imagination. Someone has to think and imagine what a possibility is, and then they go through the scientific steps to confirm or deny that and explore it. So imagination is a part of all of our life, but for some reason, we seem to have cut it out of any type of meditation or spirituality, communication with the non-physical. For some reason, we think that it shouldn't be there, that if this is real, then imagination shouldn't be a part of it. But that's not true, because imagination leads you to everything. So I want you to stop now, and I want you to go to your car and open your glove compartment and take out an object to bring it back here. Wait, don't really do that. But notice, if you can, that in that second between, is she really asking me to do that, and me telling you not to, you in your mind flashed so quick that you may not have even noticed, but if you think back now, you may catch it. You pictured where your keys were. You pictured where your car was parked, and you may have even pictured what was in your, tried to start thinking about what was in your glove compartment. That happens with everything we do. You would not get out of bed in the morning if you didn't imagine the smell of the coffee, or putting your feet on the ground, or what you were going to do with your day. That is what triggers every action we take. And that's why it's so important that you allow it to trigger the imagination of your meditations and your connection with the divine as well. Because that imagination, when you allow it and you expand that moment out, that's what a meditation is. And in that expanded space, we move from the brain thinking it and imagining it to a sense of being in it and feeling it, and a gnosis, a knowing, in which we're connected to source. And that source energy is leading us through the experience in a whole space of wholeness. So if you have questions about any of this or thoughts about any of it, email me at Sheila@consciouslyawesome.com. I would be happy to share any responses and answer any questions about it, and also can bring them up on future shows and make sure, because if you're thinking it, somebody else might be. So any experience you want to share with me or thoughts, I would love to hear from you. You can also learn more about Consciously Awesome by going to consciouslyawesome.com, or more about me at SheilaApplegate.com. So now, let's just take a moment for a quick meditation. We're not going to take a real long time here today, but we'll take a quick take a moment, and I'll lead you through a meditation. So just like I said, let your imagination lead you. Think of it as if I'm telling you a story and your eyes are closed and you're just allowing yourself to move through the story and experience it in your imagination. Do not worry about whether or not it is your imagination. It will be. It's supposed to be. That's how it begins. So let's do that now, all right? I'm going to close my eyes because that's how I see best. So you'll see me with my eyes closed anytime I lead you through. Well, you should close your eyes so you wouldn't see me. But if you open them, my eyes will be closed. If you are by chance listening to this in the car, please don't close your eyes. Please wait and listen to this later. Or I guess if you can listen to it really distracted, keep your eyes on the road. But best to listen to it later. All right. So if you can, find a comfortable place to sit, and we'll begin with a very short meditation. Just take a deep breath in and release. Breathe in love and release joy. Breathe in hope and release passion. Continue to breathe deeply and rhythmically as you feel your mind and body becoming more and more relaxed. All distracting thoughts float away like puffy white clouds in a bright blue sky. They have no power over you. And as you relax, you begin to see, feel, or sense, or imagine above your head a most beautiful golden rose sun and silver white moon, encircled by a ring of light. The golden rose of the sun and the silver white of the moon pour down like liquid color, swirling above your head, infusing into each other like an iridescence of light, now pouring into the top of your head. Imagine you can feel the liquid color entering in through the top of your head and being absorbed into the very essence of your mind, your brain, moving into your ears and your inner ears that you will hear only the truth, into your eyes and your inner vision that you will always see the truth around you and within you. And then when that light moves into your throat, imagine your throat energy opening up, that you are free to speak your truth in every moment with love and grace. And then as that light pours over your shoulders, just let your shoulders, the muscles relax. As you imagine that light dissolving now any burdens that you've carried, beliefs that don't serve you, struggles and difficulties are just getting absorbed by the light. And your muscles are becoming more and more relaxed. And then that light moves down your arms and into your hands, imagining that everyone you touch will feel the vibration of divine love flowing through you. And then let that light move into your chest and into your heart, imagining that it's filling every chamber of your heart, both the physical and the emotional aspects of your heart, now being flooded by the beautiful divine love of the golden rose and silver white light. Feel the love pouring in, and then let the light continue downward, just below your rib cage. This is the emotional center of your body. Allow the light to harmonize now all of your emotions, that you are free to experience all of emotions with love and grace. And then as it moves to your midsection, your core, feel the light igniting your creation center, helping you to imagine and create the life you desire. As the light continues down your legs and into your feet, feel the tingling vibration as your feet touch the floor. And then resting into this feeling, filling the light around you and through you. becoming more and more relaxed and open. Allow your imagination to lead you as we expand our attention and begin to imagine us walking in a beautiful garden. Feel the soft grass beneath your feet. Imagine the beautiful, vibrant flowers. Listen for the song of the birds or the soft breeze rustling the leaves of the tree. And as you look through your garden, noticing every detail, even the little rabbit that crosses the path or the butterfly that lands on your nose, you will see in the distance under a beautiful tree, there is a bench. Imagine yourself walking to that bench now. And just sit down on the bench and take a moment to notice the beauty of the garden, looking around. It is a garden exactly like you would want it to be. The sunlight is brilliant and everything seems to be glistening. And you begin to see, feel, or imagine someone standing and walking towards you. And as they approach, you will begin to recognize them. It is a loved one, someone that once walked on earth with you and now is in the beyond. You may recognize them because they may look like they did on earth, or you may just feel and sense that that is who it is, because your love inside of you knows and recognizes the one that you love. You feel safe and comforted as they approach. Take a moment to notice their eyes, their smile. Think about and notice their hair and what they are wearing. And welcome them. You may want to get up and hug them or reach your hand out and have them sit on the bench with you. Just feel the energy, enjoying this moment with your loved one. And rest into it for a moment. And as natural as you would in any other moment, you begin a conversation. But here, the conversation might be thoughts in your head or images and pictures that you imagine, symbols that mean something to you or will mean something to you. Or maybe it's just a feeling or a knowing. It's as important to notice how they are reaching out and communicating with you as it is what their message is, because you will be able to come back here many times. So simply just receive, trust, and even if it's your imagination leading you, allow that to be okay today. They may have a gift to hand to you. Just allow yourself to be in the moment completely, without judgment. There's time to think about this later. Just let the moment be magical as you imagine. And then, knowing that you can return here anytime you wish, or call on them when you're cooking, gardening, running, driving, wherever you relax. Thank them for being here today. If you wish, give them a hug. Give them a message that you always wanted to say to them. And then feel this in every cell of your body. Allow yourself to experience the feeling of this experience. And then noticing your body again filled with light. Open your eyes. And with your eyes open now, looking around your room, just allow yourself to continue to feel their love. Feel the energy with you, the sense that they are right there. Allow yourself to imagine that garden, knowing you can return to it whenever you want, simply by shifting your attention and allowing your imagination to lead you. And just breathe that in. And if you want, and you have a journal near you or any piece of paper, you could write it down. Or I'm going to end the show in just a second, so you can do that after the show too. But that's just a little taste of the wonder that I like to share with everyone. So we'll do meditations periodically as we go through the season. And like I said, we're going to invite some of the most beautifully conscious people that I adore into conversation. So even when we are talking about practical or difficult, struggling things, we're going to bring this element and help elevate ourselves into being able to navigate life's adventure and struggles from a place where we're connected to source energy and we're led by our soul. So now you know a little bit about me, and I've kind of taught you the very fundamentals of what makes life magical to me and what I like to help people to do to open up, because once we open up, then the source of love just takes over. So I will see you again next week, and I want to give a shout out and a thanks to the producer, Brian, for helping us get this show out to you. And again, if you want to share your meditation with me, anything, you can reach me at Sheila@consciouslyawesome.com. And there is a new program, a group program starting, Consciously Awesome program starting on March 18th. So if you are interested in exploring more about that, that's at consciouslyawesome.com. And have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week.